If you look back at the history of Dragon Ball, there is a clear distinction between action and horror. For the vast majority of the series, we are watching a martial arts epic. We watch muscular men scream at the sky and fire laser beams that can destroy planets. It is loud and colorful and heroic. But there is a specific moment in the Android Saga where the genre of the show fundamentally shifts. It stops being an action show about fighting and briefly transforms into a survival horror movie about being hunted. This shift happens the moment we step into Ginger Town. There are no explosions. There is no grand speech from a villain. There is just the sound of the wind blowing through an empty street and the sight of empty clothes lying on the pavement. This was the introduction of Imperfect Cell, and to this day, it remains the most genuinely terrifying concept Akira Toriyama ever created. Today, we are going to dissect the bio-horror of the Imperfect Cell saga. We are going to analyze why he is the only villain who felt like a true predator, why his design taps into primal human fears, and why the act of drinking people is infinitely scarier than simply blowing them up. This is the story of the monster who ate a city. To understand why Imperfect Cell is so effective, you first have to look at the villains that came before him. King Piccolo was a demon who wanted to rule the world. Frieza was a galactic tyrant who wanted to enslave the universe. These are concepts of conquest. They are political evils. You can understand their motivations because they are motivations of power. But Cell was different. When Cell first appeared, he did not want to rule anything. He did not care about the Dragon Balls or immortality or being the emperor of the universe. He was driven by something much more basic and much more terrifying. Hunger. He was an animal. He was a biological weapon that had woken up too early and was starving. This stripped away the glory of battle that Goku usually enjoys. You cannot have a fair tournament with a cockroach that is trying to eat you. This fundamental difference in motivation is what made the Android Saga feel so unsafe. The rules of engagement had changed. Let us talk about the visual design of Imperfect Cell because it is a masterclass in monster design. When Toriyama created Frieza, he made him sleek and refined. When he created the androids, he made them look like cool, rebellious teenagers. But Imperfect Cell is repulsive. He is designed to look like a giant insect. He has the beak of a cicada, the wings of a beetle, and disjointed, twitchy movements that look unnatural. But the most disturbing part of his design is the tail. In Dragon Ball, tails are usually just appendages. Frieza uses his tail to slap people. Goku used his tail for balance. But Cell uses his tail as a feeding tube. It is a giant hypodermic needle that he uses to violate the bodily autonomy of his victims. The imagery of that tail opening up and swallowing a person whole is body horror that borders on something you would see in an R-rated film. It plays on the fear of being consumed. It plays on the fear of being erased not by a blast of light, but by being biologically broken down into fuel for something else. The atmosphere of his introduction is built entirely on suspense. Usually in Dragon Ball, we can sense the villain coming. We can feel their Kai from a galaxy away. But Cell was a ghost. Because he possessed the cells of the Z fighters, he could suppress his power level perfectly. This introduced a mechanic of paranoia that the series had never seen before. He could be anywhere. He could be hiding behind a building or under the ground. When Piccolo arrives in Ginger Town, he walks through a city of ghosts. The animation team did an incredible job of lingering on the details. We see a suit lying on the ground with the shoes still perfectly placed. We see a dress crumpled on the sidewalk. This visual storytelling implies that the people inside those clothes vanished instantly. They were sucked dry in a matter of seconds. It creates a mystery that is far more compelling than a simple explosion. Where did they go? What happened to them? The answer is revealed when we see Cell standing over the rich man. The sound design in this scene is visceral. The squelching sound of the tail stabbing into the man and the visual of the man literally deflating like a balloon is haunting. It is a slow and painful death. It is not the glorious death of a warrior. It is the death of cattle. This leads us to the concept of biomass absorption. Cell did not just kill people for fun, he killed them because he was incomplete. Dr. Giro created him to be the ultimate life form, but in his larval state he was weak. He was unfinished. To reach his perfect form, he needed to absorb Android 17 and Android 18. But to get strong enough to catch them, he needed raw energy. He needed biomass. This turns the entire population of Earth into a resource. To Frieza, humans were just bugs to be stepped on. To Cell, humans were batteries. This dehumanization is terrifying because it makes sense biologically. Cell is not being evil for the sake of being evil. He is feeding. When a spider eats a fly, it is not being evil, it is just surviving. That is the energy Imperfect Cell carries. He views Piccolo and Vegeta and the humans as food sources. This is why he is so much scarier than his perfect form. Perfect Cell has an ego, he wants to show off. Imperfect Cell just wants to consume. There is no reasoning with hunger. The psychological impact on the characters is also unique during this arc. Piccolo is usually the most composed and stoic character in the series. He is the strategist. He is the one who fused with Kami to become a super Namekian. He should have been fearless. But when he first encounters Cell and feels the combined Kai of Goku, Frieza, and Vegeta coming from this monster, even Piccolo is paralyzed with horror. He realizes that this creature is a perversion of nature. It is an abomination that arguably should not exist. The fact that Cell refers to Goku and Vegeta as his brothers adds a layer of twisted family dynamics to the horror. He is made of them. He is their shadow self. He has the Kamehameha, but he uses it to hunt. He has the solar flare, but he uses it to escape. He takes the techniques of heroes and uses them for the purposes of a serial killer. Let us analyze the intelligence of the monster. What makes Imperfect Cell a true nightmare is that he is not a mindless beast like Kid Buu. He is incredibly intelligent. He possesses the tactical genius of Piccolo and the cunning of Frieza. This is best shown in how he manipulates the situation. He knows he is weaker than the androids, and he knows he is weaker than Piccolo after the fusion, so he runs away. This was a shock to the audience. Dragon Ball villains do not run away. They stay and fight until they die because of their pride. But Cell had no pride yet. He had a directive. He knew that if he died, he could never become perfect. So he utilized guerrilla warfare. He moved from city to city, wiping out small populations to increase his power level incrementally. He played a game of cat and mouse with the Z fighters. He would destroy a town, and by the time Vegeta or Piccolo arrived, Cell was already gone, leaving nothing but empty clothes behind. He was hunting the hunters. The scene where he attacks the islands to flush out 17 and 18 is the peak of this predator behavior. He is methodical. He doesn't just blow up the islands instantly. He slowly stalks them. He enjoys the terror he is inflicting. This is where the Frieza cells start to show. He derives pleasure from the fear of his prey. But unlike Frieza, who just wants to torture you, Cell wants to become you. The absorption of Android 17 is framed like a tragedy. The androids are machines, but they have human emotions. They care about each other. When Cell opens his tail and swallows 17, it is a violation of that humanity. It is the machine eating the man. The despair on 18's face when she realizes her brother is gone is one of the darkest moments in the saga. She knows she is next. She knows that her destiny is to be dissolved inside that monster. We also have to talk about the setting. The Android Saga takes place largely in urban environments or desolate wastelands, but the introduction of Cell happens in a rainy industrial suburb. The color palette is gray and green and dark blue. It feels cold. This atmospheric shift matches the tone of the villain. The rain washes away the evidence of his crimes. The dark clouds mirror the hopelessness of the timeline. Remember that Cell actually comes from a future that is even worse than Trunks' timeline. In his timeline, he had already killed Trunks. He had already wiped out everyone. He came to the past specifically because there was nobody left to eat in his future. He is a parasite that destroyed his own host and had to travel through time to find a new one. That backstory alone creates a level of dread that is hard to match. He is the inevitable end of all things. Dr. Jiro's underground lab is another element of horror that often gets overlooked. When Krillin and Trunks discover the basement and see the larval cell floating in the tank, it is a scene straight out of a sci-fi horror movie like Aliens. They are looking at a fetus that is designed to end the world. The blueprints show a creature that is mathematically designed to be superior. This adds a layer of technological horror to the biological horror. Cell is not a demon or a god. He is a science experiment gone wrong. He is the result of human hubris. Dr. Jiro wanted revenge on Goku so badly that he created a monster that would eventually consume even him if he had been alive. It is the classic Frankenstein story. The creator loses control of the creation. There is a specific focus on the sound of Cell's footsteps. In the anime, they gave him a unique heavy sound effect that sounded like wet metal hitting concrete. Clank, squish, clank, squish. This sound became a trigger for fear. When you heard it, you knew he was close. It is similar to the theme music in Jaws. You do not need to see the shark to be afraid, you just need to hear the sound. The anime team understood that horror is auditory. The raspiness of Imperfect Cell's voice also contributed to this. Perfect Cell has a smooth, charismatic voice, but Imperfect Cell sounds like two voices overlapping. It sounds like a human trying to speak through an insect's throat. It is guttural and wrong. It reinforces the idea that this is a chimera, a mixture of things that do not belong together. The transformation from Imperfect Cell to Semi-Perfect Cell is also significant. Usually transformations are moments of hype. When Goku goes Super Saiyan, it is glorious. But when Cell transforms, it is disgusting. He glows with a sickly light. His body expands and distorts, and when he emerges, he looks different, but the horror remains. However, I would argue that Semi-Perfect Cell loses some of the scare factor. He looks goofy. He has big lips and a bulky body. He looks like a cartoon character. Imperfect Cell was lean. He looked like a skeleton covered in armor. That skeletal appearance made him look constantly hungry. It made him look desperate. A desperate animal is always more dangerous than a satisfied one. This is why the first form remains the most iconic for horror fans. It was pure, unadulterated nightmare fuel. Let us compare him to the other major villains to truly cement why he stands out. Frieza was cruel, but he was civilized. He drank wine. He spoke politely. He ran an empire. Majin Buu was a force of nature. He was chaos incarnate. He turned people into candy, which is scary but also kind of silly. It is magical. Cell was biological. There was no magic involved in his terror. He did not turn you into chocolate, he dissolved your organs and drank you. That is a very real, very physical kind of violence. It taps into our instinctual fear of disease and predation. We are hardwired to be afraid of things that want to eat us. We are hardwired to be afraid of insects. Cell combines these two primal fears into one package. He is the apex predator that we cannot understand and cannot reason with. The climax of his horror arc is arguably his fight with Android 16. 16 is fully mechanical. He has no biological fluid to drink. This makes him the perfect counter to Cell. And yet Cell manages to overpower him through raw durability and cunning. When Cell finally corners 18, he uses the voice of 17 to trick her. This mimicry is another trait of real-world predators. Some spiders mimic ants to get close to them. Some birds mimic the calls of other birds. Cell mimics the voice of a loved one to lure 18 into a trap. It is psychological torture. He gives her false hope right before he ends her existence. It shows that he understands human emotion enough to weaponize it, but not enough to respect it. Why does this matter for the legacy of Dragon Ball? Because it showed range. It proved that Dragon Ball could be more than just a fighting show. It could be a thriller. It could be a mystery. The Cell Saga is often cited as the peak of the series by many fans, and I believe the introduction of Imperfect Cell is a huge reason why. It raised the stakes. It made the world feel dangerous again. In the Frieza saga, the danger was on Namek. Earth was safe, but Cell brought the war to the suburbs. He brought the war to the cities where people lived. He shattered the illusion of safety that the Z fighters had created. No one was safe, not even the civilians in their homes. Even the way he was defeated is telling. He wasn't just beaten, he had to be completely obliterated. Every single cell had to be destroyed. This reinforces the idea of him as a cancer or a virus. You cannot just punch a virus. You have to eradicate it completely, or it will come back. This regeneration ability, which he took from Piccolo, made him the ultimate survivor. He could come back from the brink of death stronger than before thanks to his Saiyan cells. He was the perfect amalgamation of every strength the heroes had with none of their morals. He was the mirror image of Goku's potential twisted into something malignant. The legacy of Imperfect Cell can still be seen in modern anime. Villains like Meruem from Hunter x Hunter or the creatures in Parasite share DNA with Cell. The concept of the evolving predator, the creature that learns and grows by consuming others, became a staple trope. But Cell did it with a style and a terrifying grace that has rarely been matched. He was the original bio-android nightmare. It is also worth noting the irony of his creation. Dr. Jiro hated Goku so much that he created a monster to kill him. But in doing so, he created a monster that threatened the entire universe. Jiro's hatred consumed him quite literally as Android 17 killed him, and then his creation cell consumed 17. It is a cycle of destruction that started with the Red Ribbon Army and ended with a perfect being who cared about nothing. Cell is the physical embodiment of the Red Ribbon Army's desire for domination, but stripped of all political goals, leaving only the raw desire for power. When we look back at the empty clothes in Ginger Town, we are reminded of the fragility of life in the Dragon Ball world. We are reminded that for all the Super Saiyans and Dragon Balls, there are monsters in the dark that can wipe out a city in an afternoon without making a sound. Imperfect Cell represents the unknown. He represents the consequences of science without ethics. And most importantly, he represents the fear that we are not at the top of the food chain. There is something out there that views us as nothing more than a meal. And that is a horror that transcends anime. So the next time you watch the Cell Saga, pay close attention to the first form. Look at the eyes, look at the tail, listen to the sound of his footsteps. Forget about Perfect Cell.